Welcome to Talking Mopars episode number 68. Today's show is part one of the three-part replay of the live stream my friends and I recorded for Talking Mopars Direct Connections Live number 2 on Facebook. I was joined by my friends Jonny Mopar, Matt from the Madfro Monroe on BigBlocksGarage podcast, Blake from DIYHemi.com, and Brayden from 66 Salvage Restoration. Like always, we had a great time talking Mopars, and yeah, we may have gone off the rails several times, thanks to me, but all in all, it was a fun 3 hours. Yes, 3 frickin' hours. That's why this is part 1 of 3. So, without further ado, if you are a Mopar enthusiast, then you are in the right place. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned in to the best Mopar enthusiast-driven podcast on planet Earth, and I'm your host, Chris Albrecht, better known as the Mopar Hunter, and this is Talking Mopars Direct Connections Live.
You're listening to Talking Mopars with the Mopar Hunter, your direct connection to all things Mopar.
And we are live. Hello, Facebook. My name is Chris Albrecht. This is my friend Matt Monroe, host of Big Blocks Garage, and we're here live on Direct Connections. This is Talking Mopars, Direct Connections Live, number 2. We did the first one. We're still waiting on a couple guys. Jonny Mopar's late. I'm massively late. This was supposed to happen at 7:30, but that's not the way it worked out. And we'll tell you a little bit why, but a lot of that's going to be explained on part 2 of buying a used Scat Pack for the Talking Mopars podcast. I don't know if you caught the first episode, but if you haven't, I just talk about, looking at used Scat Packs and how not to get screwed. But that's what we're talking about on the next episode of Talking Mopars. But today we're doing a Direct Connections Live, and these will also be released as podcast episodes. And we have another guest coming onto the stream, Blake from DIY Hemi. Blake, how's it going, buddy? There we go. It's a little better. Blake, we're live. So we're still waiting on Jonny Mopar, but we're going to go ahead and kick off the intro. So my name is Chris Albrecht. That's Matt Monroe. That's Blake Andermann. Jonny Mopar is nowhere to be found right now. And this is Direct Connections Live. All right, gentlemen, what's going on, guys?
How's it going?
Eventful day. Oh, there's Jonny Mopar. Perfect timing. Jonny, let's bring him in. We'll do another intro for everybody.
How's it going? Jonny
Mopar.
What's up, fellas?
All right. Guys, this is Jonny Mopar. He's later than I am now. I'm kidding. Let's go around the room. Matt, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell people where they can find you. We'll get this out of the way now.
Hey guys, I'm Matt Monroe. I host the YouTube channel Big Blocks Garage, and I have a podcast, a couple buddies of mine under Madfro Monroe on Big Blocks Garage. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and hate to admit it, we're even on TikTok.
Me too. Oops. What? All right, Brayden. Brayden, what's up, dude? He's in the chat. Jonny, go ahead.
I'm Jonny.
Who are you?
Mopar.
Where are you from? What are you doing?
I'm Jonny Mopar. I have a YouTube channel called Jonny Mopar. Wrench on all my own Mopars and hopefully have some tips for you guys. If you guys are wrenching on your own cars, it's worth watching me and just seeing what I'm doing, and maybe you'll learn something. I guess that's it.
Jonny Mopar, Matt Monroe, and last but most certainly not least, Blake. You're up, buddy.
Hey, Blake Andermann, DIY Hemi. I like Mopars and I like Hemis.
Is this
about it?
Is this some? This is Mopars Anonymous now. Right on.
Mopars. I like.
That's actually.
So I'm going to go ahead and stand up first.
Chris, you're so late.
I'm addicted to Mopar.
Yeah, Blake's probably already drunk. He waited so long for you guys. I mean, my beer is half empty already. So
I'm late for this meeting because of my Mopar addiction. And, let me just tell this story really quick. All of them. So if you guys listen to the podcast regularly, Mark, hello, Bubba, hello. If you guys listen to the podcast regularly, my last episode was talking about buying a used Scat Pack. And so far, I'm 0 for 2. And today I had, so I have the money, go down to the dealership, but I've been working this deal for like 2 or 3 days on text message, and everything seems like it's going good. And I finally see some numbers where I'm like, okay, and the wife said yes. So when the wife says yes, it's cool. You just, okay, pack up the kids, get them, let's go. Let's get this car. Go down there, and it's a little weird because, first of all, I want to drive the car. And they're like, oh, hold on. So I'm already suspicious, but the car looks clean. It's got 19,000 miles. It's a 2019 Dodge Charger Scat Pack. It's black, looks really good. It's the Brass Monkey edition, whatever the hell that is. And it was everything I wanted. I was like, okay, this is cool. We can work with this. But they weren't letting me drive it. They weren't letting me take it for a test drive. And then they started, I had already worked the deal. So why aren't they putting the numbers in front of my face? You know, and saying, are these cool? Let's get this show on the road, because I don't want to be there all night. And I knew my bank was closing to actually, finalize everything. So to make a long story short, and I'll go into a little bit more depth on the podcast, but I keep in mind, I already had finance. I already had the money. I basically had a check. Okay. So what they did was they took a bunch of my information and my wife's information, and they ran another credit check on both of us, because this is a trick that dealers will do. And I'll end it at this. They will, even if you are pre-qualified or pre-approved, they will still run your credit if they are shady, because what they can do is they can say, okay, say my interest rate was 4.74. Okay. They're going to go find one that you qualify for maybe 2%. And they're going to go, look, you got 4.74 here, but we found you one for 4%. And you're going to be like, oh, that's savings. But what they're doing is they're putting that extra 2% in their pocket, because we were negotiating, and they're so sneaky because they like to move money around. I said, hey, just take X amount off the price. You got a deal. I'll come buy the car. So then they send me another little sheet, and they said, oh, so we took a 150 from there, took 300 from this number here, and we moved that around. And I'm like, what is the number you are discounting the car? That's all I need to know. And it was shady from the get-go. I should have seen the writing on the wall, but I wanted the car. Stupid me. But so that's it. I ended up, we're sitting there waiting for the paperwork and stuff. And all of a sudden, my wife and I are sitting there. Our daughter's getting restless. I haven't eaten in 13 hours. And because I'm so excited about this damn car. And all of a sudden, my wife starts getting alerts on her phone, and she gets a phone call from a credit union at, what time was it? 6 o'clock at night. And she's like, what's this? And the salesman was right there. It was a lady salesman. She hasn't been selling cars for very long, so she was a little inexperienced. So I think the sales manager was kind of working her like, this is how the business is. This is how we can discount a car, but still make that money back up here. So my wife gets this. And if you guys knew my wife, she puts up with zero bullshit. I don't know how I've made it this long, but she was, as soon as she said that, and I was like, you guys ran our credit again after I told you we were already pre-approved. I was seeing red, because at this point it was going to be well past my daughter's bedtime. We've been sitting in this. I tried to make it so that we could just go in and get out, give me the car and get out. And I did end up driving it. I took it for a spin real quick. Okay, cool. And I was thinking to myself, why don't you guys let me drive the car? They wanted to run my credit and see, they wanted to pause and stall. They were stalling because it was in the showroom. The car was in the showroom. They're like, oh yeah, we got to get the car out of the showroom. We don't just let anybody, jump in these high performance cars. I was like, hey, the last dealership I went to, they tossed me the keys and said, hey, go drive it. So I got up, said my piece as respectfully as I could. And my wife had a nice mic drop, but we'll get into that in the actual podcast. But anyways, that was my night. That's why I'm late. I apologize to everybody who's like, where the hell is this guy? He said 7:30. He's a liar. We're here now. And first of all, guys, I apologize. That should have never happened. I tried to make it as easy as possible because I wanted the car and it just didn't work out. And now I have egg all over my face. So that's it. That's what's on my mind right now. I'm trying to cool down, but like I was telling Matt earlier, I was like, man, I haven't eaten in like 13 or 14 hours and I wanted to drink. I really wanted to drink, but I'm scared of what would happen on an empty stomach. So you guys, I was the only one drinking last time, so you guys have some fun this time. I'm going to watch this chat. What is on all of your mind? What do you got going on? What's happening, fellas?
Who's going first?
I'm trying to crunch to make Mo Party in time. As you can see, Blake, who challenged me to some races, is sitting there with a finished car, and mine has a giant hole in the side.
It's not finished. They're never finished.
Man, that's more finished than that thing back there.
You can do it, man. I'm rooting for you.
Oh, I was trimming floors out today. The driver's side's already trimmed out, so we're about to start doing all the body work in like the next 3 weeks, probably.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
Now, I know you told me what you're going to paint the car, but can you let all your fans know what color you're going to paint the car?
Oh, man. So it's a little bit of a copy because I'm a huge fan of the crop duster just because it gave me inspiration to be able to finish this car. So we're going to go back factory tour red on this car. Somebody painted it orange in its life somewhere. We're going back factory tour red, and then we're going to do the flat black high performance package style paint job on the hood and along the drip rails and everything else.
Nice.
And then I'm running some Foose wheels on it, and then all black interior. I mean, I just really like a good red and black car. That's just how I am.
Yeah, they're nice.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And you have to do some. What kind of high performance things are you going to add to the car to beat that AAR CUDA that's sitting behind Blake at Mo Party?
A very heavy foot, because that's about all I got.
Hold on. We need to explain what's happening here because nobody knows about this challenge that's going on. So,
that is true.
Step up, somebody, and tell them about this challenge. See, folks, we have a private chat. Me and these guys, we chat all the time, and they talk me off ledges and all sorts of fun stuff. But we're trying to make it to Mo Party, and if you guys don't know what Mo Party is, they just had their first annual one last year, September, and it was a huge success in the midst of the pandemic and all that. It was a huge success, and so now 3 of us are gonna try to make it out there. I know 2 of us for sure are, and that's Matt and Blake. Jonny and I may be MIA. I'm gonna try to get out there. Which it's looking promising now that I didn't spend a bunch of money on a car.
There you go.
Johnny, maybe I'll pay for your flight out there.
Hey, now you're talking.
Hey, don't tempt me, dude. I might. Go ahead, Matt or Blake. Tell them what the challenge is.
So Chris Maddox, who just commented down there at the bottom, he's here with me, and he's one of my co-hosts on Madfro Monroe. We're hoping to hop in the Duster and road trip to Bowling Green, Kentucky. And Blake wants to throw down on some drag racing and some road rallies, and hopefully it comes out pretty good.
That's it.
The challenge.
It's challenge.
Gonna be fun. Blake, where do you stand? Talk some shit to Matt right now. Oh, I'm just joking.
I feel like that's gonna like do me in, you know. Like I'll talk some mad shit, and then I'll have egg all over my face, and I'm gonna go to like the starting line, and they're gonna drop the flag, and the thing's gonna fall on its face, and everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, it's so cute! Bring it back home."
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love a good friendly challenge. It's going to be fun. A body versus E body. It's going to be a good time. I can't wait for that. So for everybody watching, if you guys have a microphone, headphones, you're more than welcome to come join us on the chat. You know, we'll boot your ass if you're not, if you're get out of line. We're going to boot you. But we're bringing on Brayden from 66 Salvage Restoration and Speed Shop.
What's up, Brayden?
Brayden, introduce yourself, buddy. Tell everybody who you are, what you do.
What's going on, guys?
What's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
I'm the ugly guy, and I work on cars for a living. No, my name is Brayden. I am the founder and owner of 66 Salvage Restoration Speed Shop.
And
so
where is
make
that at?
speed dreams come alive and happen. That's my whole mission.
Where's your shop?
In Clinton, Illinois.
Okay. Right on. How far is that away from Chicago?
Illinois. I'm actually up here at the shop right now, actually.
How far are you from Chicago?
It's only about an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay. Cool, man. What are you working on these days? What do you got in the shop right now?
I had a customer's vehicle moved out, and all I've got in the shop right now is the truck, which is known as the Beast, that I talked about with everybody last time, except I wasn't on the live video. video. So
Okay, yeah, you were in the chat. You joined us chat.
so
and,
the Stroker Mud Bog. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
so it's a mud bog. That's what we were talking about
How
last
are you
time.
guys
Right?
doing?
I'm good.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. The P18.
Okay, hey, Brayden,
So
are you
don't
hooked
mind
up?
me just having a brew.
No worries, buddy. Hey, are you hooked up through Wi-Fi or a direct line?
You guys having a problem hearing me?
You're breaking up.
Is that what's
Your
going on?
connection's a little. You're breaking up. Your connection is a little
Hold
glitchy.
on. Let me. All right. Hold on just a minute.
All right, no problem. We're going to continue. Jonny Mopar, what do you got going on, dude?
Man, all kinds of stuff. But today I worked on our 383 that's going into the club car, which is our very ugly 66 Belvedere 4-door that has a poly 318 right now. I just put a flex plate on the 383, so I'm pretty anxious to get that thing bolted together and get it on the run stand and fire it up, break in the cam, get it ready to go. Of course, I still have to work on my Duster. The brakes are still a little kind of, I don't know, not all there. I'm hoping that something's just come loose in the back brakes, but I just haven't had time to pull it apart and have a look at it. And I want to get that car up to speed so I can start taking that to the track. And if you guys saw the videos, I did take our club car, Dorothy, to Verona and ran it down the track. So that was pretty fun, even though it was super slow. But it was a good time. So if anybody's out there thinking about running at the track, you should do it. It's a good experience, even if you're not very fast. So let's see what else. I got to get back on my mom's car. Just real quick, my mom had a little health issue a couple of weeks ago, and it's kind of freaky, scary, and she's still not 100%, but I really got to get back on her 72 Charger and get that thing back together so she can drive it, you know. So the pressure is on.
I'm sorry to hear about your mom, man. Hope she's doing okay.
Thank you. Yeah, she's doing better. It was kind of a scare. We thought, at first I thought maybe she got COVID. Turns out my sister got it, and she hangs out with my mom a lot. And then, and then I thought, because I had gone over to get some toolboxes from my dad he had given me, and my son was up by my mom. So I thought, man, here we go. You know, is it going to spread through the house? But turns out she tested negative, but my dad rushed her to the ER. She had trouble breathing and stuff, and she ended up having blood clots in her lungs. Oh, no. So she's on a breathing machine. She's staying at my sister's right now. So hopefully she'll get back to 100% and hopefully get her car done as fast as possible so she can, go for a run in it.
Yeah. God.
So,
yeah,
absolutely.
That COVID thing, man. I know so many people that are like, I don't know anybody there's people that have COVID is real, folks. If you think it's fake, it's not fake. It may be overblown. You know, there may be some stuff there, but it's real, you know. But that's all. We'll just leave it at that. But Jonny, I hope your mom gets better, buddy.
Thank you.
It's unfortunate.
Thank you. Yeah, on the COVID thing, at first I was kind of wavering too. It's like I'm not going to really take one position or the other, you know, just kind of paying attention and seeing what's going on. But I can tell you at work, man, we've had it spread through work like crazy, and there's at least one person that I know of that was a really cool person, and she doesn't work there anymore, but she passed away, unfortunately. She had diabetes and she caught it and she passed. Oh no. So yeah, it's pretty bad. It's out there.
It's underlying health issues, man. Like I started. My wife is on a detox and cleanse, and this isn't a health podcast, but being supportive, I was like, yeah, I'll help you. I'll join in with you. You know, we'll do this together. And it's been tough, but everything I've read says that could help boost your immune system. And I take vitamins every day. So I'm a garbage man. And I'm kind of a germaphobe too. You could imagine being in a garbage truck and a germaphobe. It's not good. Yeah. I remember one day I stepped in dog shit. Right? I'm a garbage truck driver. It shouldn't bother me, dude. I was livid. And the area I service at work, has a lot of money. You're talking $1 million homes. I live in the Northwest where, everybody's Google, Amazon.
Yeah.
I snuck up to one of these nice houses and I used their faucet to wash the shit off the bottom of my boot. I didn't feel bad about it at all. Oh, hey, Dan Streeter, my buddy. He says they're trying to shop your loan. Yeah, I figured that out pretty quick. I thought I could trust him. I told him. I didn't try to hide the fact that I was pre-approved, dude. I said, I got the money. Let's figure out the price. And if I'm being honest, okay. I offered them $7,000 less than they were asking. And they're like, well, we can't move that much on it. And I was like, well, I know that. This is where you counter. Like, yeah. They must not understand a cheap-ass Mopar guy, but they found one. And I had the money. I was just trying to, the more I could save, the more I could pocket, for fun stuff. And so I had a plan, and we actually had a number where because I had some cash set aside to put down, and because I knew it would probably come to that. But they up, dude. I'll tell you that. But yeah, they really, as far as Dan says, they will try to get you to focus on the payment number because they can work some other numbers to manipulate the payment. That's actually 100% correct. The way they do the Foursquare and stuff, I explained that on the last podcast. But this way, I was pre-approved for a certain amount. I ran all the numbers. There's a really cool, I wish I remembered it off the top of my head, but there's this car loan calculator tool online. It's free. You go in there, you put in your sales price, you put in the price of your trade, your negative equity, and you put in your sales tax and all that stuff. And it will tell you how much you're paying throughout the life of the loan. It'll tell you what the principal is. And with the pre-approval, they'll say, oh, we're only going to give you X amount over the amount that we think the car's worth. So they gave me that amount. I calculated out the 15 extra %. So I had a little bit of room to work. And I was ready to go, dude. I was ready to buy that car. Oh my God, they were close, but hey, there's more scat packs out there. We're not talking about an AAR Cuda or something. You know what I mean? We're not talking about a Duster with its quarter panel ripped off. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's precision cutting.
Man, I need to start cutting on my shit, dude. Like, that's what I need to do. But what else is on your guys' mind?
Well, I'll tell you what. A friend of mine, Chris Field, who owns Motec over here locally to me, he's got a Scat Pack, a 2020 Charger Scat Pack wide body, and we're at my other friend's Dennis's house where we're working on the Belvedere, and he shows up in this freaking beautiful blue Scat Pack and hands me the keys and says, go try it out. And I'm like, man, I don't know. Are you sure? And he goes, yeah. So another buddy jumped in the car with me and we took it out for a drive. And of course, I'm here in California, so it's very crowded. It's not like you're going to get out on the highway and, hit some high numbers. But I could tell you, driving the car, we got onto a freeway which kind of has like a loop. The on-ramp loops around, and then you could kind of boogie as you're coming down onto the freeway. And I romped on it, and it's like, holy shit, man, that thing is just like effortless power. I mean, we hit 100, and then I got out of it, and it's like, that's good enough for me. But I think we were kind of all talking about the difference between old school Mopars and newer Mopars. And I could tell you it's really like a different genre. I mean, it's just, there's really not a competition where like one is better than the other. They're just way different. You can make arguments depending on what things you want or need that you can call better or not. I could tell you, like, his car is 485 horsepower. I'll be happy if my Duster's making that kind of power. I don't think it is, but let's just say it was the same. It's probably making like 450 or so. Now, if I owned a Scat Pack, there's friends, and Chris Field is one of them. I would hand the keys to and say, go test drive that car, and feel totally comfortable doing it. I would not hand my keys to anybody for my Duster, not because I don't trust them. It's just that car is not capable of sticking to the road like that Scat Pack is. I mean, it is freaking insane. Like, you could do that 100 miles an hour in that little loop getting on the freeway. It was like the car was just planted to the road. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
You were in complete control. You're hugged by the seat. I mean, the car's just, it's not going anywhere, But my Duster, I think it would have been doing some loops, spinning out if I tried that same thing in that same car, It's just not the same.
Oh, you're right.
Duster is cool. It's raw. It's freaking power. It's craziness. It sounds badass. It sounds like it's going to rip your heart out. But it's kind of like not as safe and stable as that Scat Pack is. Probably not even making as much power as that Scat Pack is. Badass car.
They the electronics in these new cars and the technology is just so crazy. But I don't like comparing old versus new, unless it's just for fun. But like the shit talking, I'll never get that. They're two different cars.
They are.
The new ones are awesome and amazing, and the old ones, I mean, nothing needs to be said about those. If you don't like the old school Mopar muscle cars, then sell your new Mopar and get the fuck out. Because we don't want you. No, I'm kidding. But
well, yeah. I mean, I'm guilty. I'm that guy. I'm that old school guy. I like the old school cars, right? And we have a car show local to me at the School for the Deaf in Riverside, put on by Inland Mopars. Anyway, it's called Mopars in May, and I've been going to that show for years, and it's almost always old school Mopars. But then they kind of died out. They moved to other places. It got kind of disrupted, and then they went back to that same location. And it was like half the car show was new stuff, and the other half was old school stuff. And I didn't really have much interest in walking the new school stuff. I mean, I hate to say it. I hate to be that guy, but it was like you kind of saw the same thing over and over. It's like, there's Chargers, there's Challengers. We even had one guy. He's like, check out this car, And me and my buddy are, he's like, you see anything different about it? And we're looking at it, and it's like, okay, we give. What is it? And he's like, it's got, and I don't remember the years, but it's got like a 2017 front and back clip or on an older Challenger or something like that. And it's like, how am I supposed to know that? Like, how it's the same body. You're never going to be able to tell that, So I'm that guy, but I got to tell you, man, when I drove that car, it was like, holy shit, man, it's a badass car.
Yeah, they're cool. But one thing and for anybody that is into newer Mopars, that maybe you're listening to this or maybe you'll see it in the future, I'm not talking shit here, but I see a lot of what was happening because I grew up during the height and I was starting to drive during the height of Fast and the Furious. And what I've seen over time is everybody's like, Hondas aren't cool anymore. You know what I mean? Because at one time, maybe I thought a Honda was cool. I like all cars. Sometimes I see I knew a guy with a 4-door Accord that had close to 800 horsepower, turbocharged. It was,
wow.
It could keep up with liter bikes on the freeway, 1,000cc bikes, R1s, things like that. I mean, it was fast as hell. And he had meth injection, not the drug, but he had a cage in it, and it from the outside it appeared 100% stock. The only thing that gave it away was the tires in front. He had some balloon tires in front, so he could actually get traction. But the thing was insane. So, like, when people talk shit about imports, I get it. There's a lot of riced out cars that, any new Toyota could beat off the line, and they've got a bunch of money in their Honda and they're still going to get smoked. But I see the new Mopars taking on a lot of the same modifications as the imports, which, if you want to create your own car, like to have its own personality or whatever, I get it. Like I said, I'm not talking shit. But for me, like when I go to a Mopar show, if it's just a bunch of stock I shouldn't say stock, if it's a bunch of these modern Mopars and all they have is like fancy lights, everybody's got the same lip spoiler, and I'd be lying if I said that I didn't think about putting a lip spoiler on that Charger I tried. I was like, it'd probably look pretty good with a front lip on it. But I would much rather go to a car show and see modern Mopars where if you pop the hood, this one's got a Whipple on it. This one, this one's got 175 shots of nitrous and it looks. I like the factory sleek. You don't really need. I mean, the cars look great. Sometimes these guys are overdoing it. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, come on, what do you got to do? Just I would like to have one and just have, some stuff done under the hood. That way it's like, okay, if anybody pulls up, they think it's a stock Scat Pack or something. You got a Whipple, you got a stroked out 6'4", 426 cubic inch Hemi with a Whipple on it. They don't even know. That would be fun, but it's just, I like the fact that people are getting into Mopars, but there's certain things that annoy me, like, these guys talking about Scat Packs, but they can't tell you the history of where Scat Pack even comes from. It's like, hey, know this stuff, dude. I can't really call you a real Mopar enthusiast.
Oh,
yeah.
There
I have that shirt in black and I'd wear it, but I got fat since I bought it. So I'm sure you guys don't want to see that.
Actually, my buddy Chris Field that owns that Scat Pack gave me this shirt. So if anybody wants a shirt like this, he's got some other shirts. Just give him a little quick plug. It's called Straight Line Clothing on Teespring.
Oh, really?
He gave me the link. I don't know. I can't really do it here, but yeah. So check it out if you guys want some cool T-shirts.
I'm gonna have to charge him $6.99 for that promo, Johnny.
Oh, okay.
Mike Cobb.
He's in the comments, so you can tell him in there. He's got
Chris?
the little hand waving. Yeah, Chris Field.
I'll give you all my information later, buddy. You can PayPal me. I'm just kidding. Yes, Mike, you are right. D-badged Hellcat. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
When you kind of look at the old engines, for example, you could pop a hood, know it's either a 426 or you could know it's a 340 or a 318 just by identifying either the carburetor that's on there or identifying the manifold. With these new cars, you kind of just lose sight of that because they're not impressive when you pop the hood. Even if there is a Whipple on there, I don't know. I guess call me old school, but it's just they miss the flair, if you know what I mean. Especially when you pop the hood on an engine, that's the most thing that identifies a Mopar is the block itself.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to. I mean, there's so much shit on top of the engines these days. It's like hard to even see the motor. But I'm sure I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that these guys that are really into these new Mopars probably can tell. I mean, Blake's probably one of those guys, but like we went and bought we leased a new Dodge truck, a 2000, I think it's a 19. My wife drives, and they had a Demon on the showroom floor, and you're spending like Chris was doing earlier. You spend a lot of time at the dealership when they're trying to work bullshit numbers and all that stuff, and so I couldn't help but walk around the Demon, and it's like, man, there's like cool stuff on there, on the I believe it was on the supercharger. It had like a little Demon engraved into it, which looked pretty bitchin'. I mean, there's a lot of little details that I probably couldn't rattle them off right away, but I'm sure those guys that are into those cars could probably go, oh yeah, the Demon's got this and it's got that, and like we do when we see a Hemi or a 340 car or something like that. I don't know. Can you, Blake?
Yeah, it's a following, just like us old school guys. I try to bridge the gap as much as possible, but when you walk up to a car and there's some dead giveaway characteristics. So like you look at a Scat Pack, right next to an RT, something like that. A Scat Pack Challenger next to an RT Challenger, new school stuff, and you look at over at the Scat Pack and you see the throttle body kicked off at like a 40-degree angle, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's going to probably be a 6.4. You look down and you see the from the factory the coated Hemi performance orange engine block, so that's something kind of cool. It's a tip of the hat to old school, and that 6.4 block is painted Hemi orange, race Hemi orange. It's kind of actually a dull Hemi orange, not like EV2 like you would think, like the external paint job, which is kind of funny. Side tangent, that color was really kind of based off of, the old school Hemi oranges after they were kind of broken in. So the paint faded a little bit. And it's kind of funny to see that. But there are some certain things that you can notice right away just looking at an engine. There's casting numbers, little things that you could look for, and you could say, oh man, that thing has, Apache heads, and, which is 6.4 liter heads. And the little nuances, that demographic, those people, they know that like the back of their hands. just like we know old school. And it's really impressive to see, oh man, that thing has a Hellcat red eye blower on it. It has the larger blower on it. It doesn't have just a standard, displacement blower. Maybe it has the Demon blower on it. And they'll call them those specific names because of, say, the volume, the size of the blower. They could point those things out, very easily compared to some stuff. We look at old school, we say, oh, that's a 440. Oh, that's a small block. We could see those things. They can do that too. It's just that's what they pine over, just like the old school guys. So it's you still have that passion there. You still have that same in-depth knowledge. But as Chris was saying, you would hope that you do a little homework, a little history. Where did the Scat Pack originate from? Where do we get some of these cool things? What was the original Dodge Demon? It was a little A-body terror, man. It used to rip up the streets. They called it the Giant Killer.
I think it's kind of cool that they do that little throw. They throw a line to the old school, the history. They've screwed it up, here and there. Like I drive a Dart for my daily driver, but it ain't nothing like an old school Dart, unfortunately. But I was just going to point out what Mike over here said too. He's got a buddy that can drive 300 miles, click off 970s, and drive home with the AC on. It's like, it's kind of. I can't say. I can never. I don't. It'll be a long time before I could ever say something like that with one of my old schools. But I still love my old schools.
Don't miss my point. I love the new Mopars. I think they're great. Yeah. I think they're amazing cars. I just feel like for certain people, it is the in trend, just like Hondas and imports, and they're following that the exact same trend. Go look at a magazine. Go look at an import magazine from 2001. You're seeing the same thing on Mopars now. You're seeing the cheesy graphics on the side of these. I'm like I go on YouTube and I look up some things for Scat Packs and stuff, trying to get more familiar with the car because I really don't know that much about them. I'm no expert, so I'm trying to learn about these guys. I'm going to spend a shitload of money. I want to know about the car, and I go on there and I see the riciest shit. So hey, if you're listening to the show, and the first thing you do to your modern Mopar is put a stupid graphic on the side, hey, sell it right now. Okay.
The wraps, man. And Chris, in our area, it's the wraps. We'll go into town. So if I'll drive down, I'm, maybe 45-minute drive from New Orleans, and we'll go into the city, especially on Interstate 10, anywhere from where my house is to New Orleans on Interstate 10 on any given trip, I will get blown by quite a few Mopars. I love it. I'm like, oh, they're going street racing, and I know exactly where you're going. You're going to Alamonster Avenue. You're going to the pad. You're going to drop some cash. I know what you're doing. And they just plow by, vroom, vroom. I mean, flying, probably doing 100 plus on the interstate. And the wraps, they're all wrapped. Camouflage. They're wrapped in. Street graphics. They're wrapped to make it look like fake rust. One guy had it wrapped to look like he ran over somebody. It had fake blood down the side. It's nuts.
So check this out. It's kind of funny because on the old school Mopars, I mean, unless you lived in the 70s, you probably don't know this, but that same shit was happening in the 70s. And every now and then you'll see like a survivor car that's like sitting in a field somewhere, and it's got like these crazy strobes down the side, and you're like, what the hell were you smoking when you put that shit on the car? But and everybody gets those cars and they restore them, they always try to go back to stock or original paint jobs, factory colors, factory stripes on them and stuff. So if you were like born in, or I shouldn't say born, but if you were living in the 2000s, say you're in your 20s, 2000s and later, you never saw that stuff. So you kind of have this perception like, all those old school guys always kept their shit like clean and factory original, but no, that shit happened, man. That shit happened back in the day too, especially in the 70s when they jacked the ass up and
different levels.
That was the acid flavor of the day.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I had a guy who used to pick on me. He used to say, "Man, you know why we used to do that back in the '70s?" And I said, "Man, I don't know what." Like, it's one of those guys you just like, what the hell's about to come out of your mouth?
Right.
He's like, "Well, everybody knows you run faster downhill." Like that literally makes no sense whatsoever.
That's hilarious.
True. Man, it's not a Mopar, but probably about 10 years ago, I was going down the freeway and I saw a guy in a Cougar go by, and he had that. It was totally restored.
Wait,
like,
it was a guy in a Cougar or a guy with a Cougar?
a guy in a Cougar.
A guy riding a Cougar.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, I mean, he had that thing like jacked up, skied, ass was stuck up high in the air, and I was like, holy crap, it actually looked kind of cool, man. It was like a street freak looking car. It just looked way different, you know?
Yeah.
But I would never do it, but it was cool to see somebody else do it.
yeah. I will say this, as far as the wraps go, I do like vinyl wraps. As long as they're not too, you can really hit or miss with a vinyl wrap, in my opinion. I've seen some really nice wraps. I think, Blake, you and I were talking about like a chrome wrap or like a brushed aluminum wrap. That's cool stuff. There's some wraps where I'm like, hey, you could have just bought a giant stupid sticker and put it on the side of your car, and you probably went to spend $3,000. You know what I mean?
What about a Cougar down the side? And then its back legs could be by where the wheel is. So it looks like it's running.
Yeah.
Like the old cartoons from back in the day.
Yeah, like the Scat Pack B.
So the guy I sold my last Barracuda to, $70,000 coupe, he talks to me all the time. He comes by. I actually have one of his cars here at the shop now, and he's like, paint job now, paints it's astronomical. I think a pint of paint is maybe in excess of $100 now in our area. He told me, he said, look, I think I'm going to wrap the car. I'm going to wrap it in a color, just hit it down with some primer, wrap it, and do the full job, because it was like comparatively, say like $2,200 versus $10,000, to do a wrap job versus an all paint job. And he said, right now, just to get it on the road and enjoy it, I think that's the way I'm going to go. They can be made to look really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would imagine too, you're saving like the life of the paint job. I mean, imagine if old school cars, the stories you would hear, it's like, oh, I found this car in a barn and it was wrapped, and I peeled the wrap off and the paint job was like brand new,
Mm-hmm.
How cool would that be?
But the quarters were still rotting off of it.
Yeah. The wrap was holding it together.
Yeah.
Wait, what's rust?
Oh man,
You can get a wrap that
That's
has
weight
rust.
reduction to go faster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, Brayden? What's your opinion on this new stuff? What do you think about it?
Like what? The motors?
The cars in
wraps,
general.
things like that.
Yeah.
There are some things I'm kind of lost at. I think it's just because being older, there's days where you have guys come to me and, oh, well, I'm a tuner. Well, I just plug this into the car and it tells me, what's wrong with the diagnostic. Well, if you can't open a hood, start a motor up, for like example, most people know that most Holleys, for example, they have a sucking sound. Edelbrocks have a tick suck sound. Well, if these new kids, all they do is they plug this into the car and that's that. So I think, there's some things that are being lost with newer vehicles.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think there's things that like newer kids can gain. But I think, you have to learn the basics, and that's dealing with a naturally aspirated engine before you deal with all these fuel injected power monsters, in my opinion. I don't know. I guess if somebody wants to call me an asshole, then so be it. But I kind of feel like it's a dying art with these new vehicles.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, the uniqueness of these cars as well. Like, I remember my buddy Eric, he's got a 69 Roadrunner, 383 in it. He had a 440 in it. I don't remember which he had in at the time. I think it was a 383, but his stepdad had one of those, and I want to say this was in the 90s. Cadillac SVS or something like that, like one of the really fast Cadillac, the one that's got all the sharp angles on it. And
V, right? Like a
STS or CTS?
Cadillac CTS.
Well, maybe that's it. But he talked shit on my buddy Eric, who drove the original, Tour Red, primer spots all over the car, old 69 Roadrunner, that, he could beat his ass. So, of course, my buddy's like, bring it. And they race, and the Roadrunner whooped that car's ass, so the cars from the 60s, I mean, they dominated long past their time. You figure like a car comes out in about 5 to 10 years, it's sort of like a dominant force for the time. Like, let's say Scat Packs or Hellcats or Demons or whatever are right now. But back then it was like all of the emission bullshit that happened in the early mid 70s, early to mid 70s, it sort of just killed all of the performance for so long that people that were performance minded weren't going after new cars at that time. They were always reaching back to the 60s, and those cars they dominated for, 20 or 30 years before these new cars started to come along and they started to really get super fast, and start making a lot of power, like they are today. So it does feel like, we had a good run and it feels like we're becoming archaic. We're becoming the Model A's and the Model T's or whatever of, what those cars are to us guys that love the 60s and 70s cars. We're, I guess, in a way sort of becoming. But hey, even though, like Mike pointed out a few times, how fast these new Hellcats are and stuff, they're still a pretty dominant force, and we're putting up a good fight. I think the old school cars are still putting up a good fight, and still relevant on the drag strip and still relevant on the streets. So we'll see for how long we can last,
Yeah, they're fast. There's no doubt about that. But I'll tell you this right now, and then Blake, you can go ahead. You will never, ever, mark my words, you will never, ever see the modern Mopars in the same position as we see the old ones. You're never going to find a barn find Hellcat. I just don't see that happening. These cars are so filled with electronics that as soon as they start to shit the bed, they're going to be stacking those Hellcats and Challengers and the V6 ones. They're going to be stacking them at the wrecking yards because nobody's going to want to fix all the electronical BS that's inside them once it starts getting 200,000 miles. Somebody out there has to have a newer Mopar with 300,000 miles. If not, then we already know where everything's headed, to the wrecking yard. Because if you can't keep one of those things running for 300,000 miles, it's a goner. I can't imagine having to deal with all those electronics and shit.
I don't know. DIY Hemi might be supplying like full, bumper to bumper harnesses by then. So.
Okay, Johnny.
It's just a possibility.
Yeah.
I know a guy.
Yeah. No, we enjoy that. I think we spend a lot of time comparing the old and the new, but what I like about combining the old and the new is that you kind of get the best of both worlds. Just like you said, you pull up at a red light and you're in a Duster, you're in a Duster and it's just chopping away. And there's a brand new SRT Challenger right there next to you. It's 6'4", maybe not a Hellcat or anything like that. But, it's a high likelihood that the new Challenger is going to walk away. But when you're going down the block, what's going to snap the necks? What's going to turn the heads? Yeah. Probably going to be that old A-body,
Yeah.
So to your point, we're looking at all this electronics and the automation, and it's great. It's every bit as reliable as the old school. But the era that we're kind of getting into is we have to be very crafty and creative. We kind of live in a softer world than back then.
Yeah.
So you got to have the best of both worlds. And what I mean by that is, as you're, to your point earlier, talking about, kids just, plugging an OBD port and, well, it can't tell me what's wrong. So I can't fix it, and then you have some of the older generations has been like, I just want to listen to it. I want to hear it and smell it. And, if it's beyond that, I don't want to look at computers and that's newfangled, whatever, I look at it from, I think us on this podcast right now, we're kind of in that optimal era right now where we understand the old school. We can walk behind the car and be like, man, that thing is running rich as hell. Like my eyes are watering. Like, you could listen to it. You could hear what's going on. You're like, that's not right. It's detonating. It's detonating right now. I could look at it and I could tell it's detonating. Like, who's your tuner? Like, what did you do? Like, that's not where you want to be running. If you have that mindset, it makes you so much more of a capable modern tuner. So you can make adjustments and you can see, well, this is what's going on. Like, you don't have to sit there and wait for feedback. And to be honest, the computer's not always going to tell you the answer. It's going to say, hey, circuit high open. Well, that doesn't tell you what's wrong. You have to understand how things work mechanically, just like you said, squeeze, suck, bang, blow, right? The old internal combustion engine. You have to know.
I like it when you talk dirty, Blake.
Hey, man, get your mind out the gutter. I'll keep it there. It'll be fine, But you have to know. You have to have that mindset of how things work and the flexibility to kind of work both ends of the spectrum. And we're talking about long-term born fines. It kills me. It eats me up when someone just drops down a big wad of cash. Let me go buy that demon and let me go stick it in a corner somewhere, because electronics do deteriorate. I mean, it's just a fact of like, it's going to happen. The insulation degrades over time. It's just going to happen. Is it going to be easier in the future to get an old 30-year-old demon on the road? Hell no. Like the old stuff from the 60s and the 70s, it's going to live forever. But it's limited, unfortunately. The technology has brought power and performance to what it is today. So it's the trade-off, right? You can go 100% old school, and it'll probably last forever, right? It's the old chisel and stone. It's not going to wear away. It's not going to wilt away. But when you're talking about fuel atomization, you're talking about ignition, you're talking about all these, the most optimal power out of every single molecule of fuel, new school. It's the technology, the science is there. Unfortunately, it's not a lifetime science, so you make that decision when you make that swap. And from like the arena that I'm in, really, it's all about, hey, I want to get in and crank this car up, and I know I have X amount of power on tap. I know I can go wherever I want in comfort. And I know I still have the looks of the old school. It's all right here. So it's like the best of everything. I get the fuel mileage, I get the power, I get the reliability, I get the overall aesthetics of a cool ass old school Mopar, right? And it's a balance game. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You're right, Chris. 30 years, it's going to be hard as hell to start that demon that's been sitting in the barn. Another thing about it is, aside from, say, the demon, which is almost like kryptonite, it's hard to find, hard to get a hold of, you can go buy a new Mopar and get it off the shelf. So the kind of the respect level is down a little bit compared to the old school, because if it's made it for 50 years, it's survived for 50 years, that's kind of a badge of honor right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love the new.
Like my block in my truck.
Yeah, Blake, you're actually in a great position right now with DIY Hemi, I think, because, man, with the crate motors coming out and all these cars, like we've talked about this many times, but it has to be said again, with all these modern cars with Hemis, the Jeeps too, I wish I was in your position, dude. I know what you're doing. You're sitting back like, I'm just gonna go ahead and get myself set up here, and when you guys are ready, I'll be here for you. I know what you're doing, dude. I like it though. I like it. I think Johnny's right. You need to start working on these bumper to bumper harnesses. I think there's something there. I think there's something there, dude. You just sit back, get it. I mean, you got plenty of time, get it developed, and then when people start complaining about it, like, fuck, I found a Challenger, blah blah blah. In 20 years, like, I found a 2017 Challenger RT, dude. It's really clean, but it's all jacked up with the electronics. And Blake, DIYHemi.com. I'll still be podcasting like DIYHemi.com, guys. Like,
your sponsors will be like
DIYHemi.com. Yeah.
You're good at what you do, Blake.
I appreciate that. It's a passion for all things, I love them all, man. And I want people to really enjoy them. And my biggest pet peeve is drive them. Don't stash them away and collect dust. You know, that's just my biggest pet peeve is I get it. Like, you don't want to get a scratch on it. I get it. But really, is that what it's made for? Just drive it. Enjoy the shit out of it.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Mike wants to know how we feel about LS swaps. I think they're really great in everything except Mopars.
So Fox in the Hen House, I did that for like 8 years. Right? I did LS swaps for like 8 years. You know, I knew the ins and outs of them. I still have all this, like the specialized tools and stuff. I enjoyed them. LSC10s. It was great. I will say this, that the LS crowd, forgive me, they are much more sharing and forgiving than the Mopar crowd. So
yeah.
In the LS world, if they figure out how to do one thing, if they could figure out how to start an LS with a paper clip, there's going to be 55,000 forum posts and blogs and, you know, how-to tutorials and everything from, you know, here to Timbuktu on it. In the Mopar world, if they figure out a trick or how to make something work with kind of these Gen 3s, people keep it to themselves. And they're like, well, I want to be the only one. I want to be the fastest. I want to be the best, you know? And that was one thing that struck me as just odd. It's like, oh man, do you realize how we could really just decimate the LS world? You know, like if we just talked about the swaps with one another and kind of shared our secrets, and that's happening now. There's a whole movement now. You get online and there's forums, blogs like, well, 30 people will chime in to help you. It was not like that 5 years ago. When I started DIY Hemi, people were very tight-lipped. Very tight-lipped. And you're getting more power just from the overall design of the third generation Hemi. You're getting more power than LS. They can really put the power to the road. They can really make good things happen. It was always just a technology and an information limited field, right? So where everybody was sharing LS out the wazoo, nobody was sharing Hemi stuff. The LS stuff just blew by us. It's way out there. You know, I think Holley makes a gazillion products for LS swapping anything under the sun. But notice what's happening right now. Holley almost every week puts out a new Hemi swap product. Almost every week.
Wow.
You know, they are really stepping up the game because they see what we see. They see what's coming.
Yeah.
Now that this whole community is surrounding this new technology, they know, oh man, the wave is coming. Like, these people want performance parts. These people want options. You now have Holley aluminum oil pans specifically for swaps, when for years you only had one company that made a swap oil pan. You know, you have accessory drives, intake manifolds, exhaust manifolds, engine mount brackets, all this stuff that was not very available in the past. The fire is coming. It is coming. And Moparty is like the biggest thing about it, you know, right? Moparty, in my opinion, was Holley's answer to their very own LS Fest. LS Fest was so successful, they said, well, what can we do for the Chryslers? What can we do for Mopar? And that's why me and old Matt are going to have a little showdown at Moparty, because I think it's about all things Mopar. But there's a very heavy tilt or tip of the hat towards Gen 3 Hemi swaps there. And his car's got the Gen 3 in it. My car's got the Gen 3 in it. His car's lighter. You know, I think he's going to take me in the quarter mile. My car's just a little bit lower, maybe do a little bit better in the twisties. I don't know. We're going to see what happens, but it's a head-to-head. We got 257 Hemis. We're going to go out there and have a blast and share the love and show how reliable these things are, how easy it is to do the swap. It's there, man. It really is there. So when you're asking about LS, that's my long-winded story. Is I think the gig is up, guys. I mean,
so I have an opinion. I have an opinion. I think the reason LSs are extremely popular, especially like in today, especially like with you know, all the freaking Street Outlaw stuff, like turbos are. I mean, Street Outlaws has basically shown that turbos are the shit. That's the freaking next level. And I think with LSs, it's so easy to put a turbo set on or turbo kit on a LS motor and make gobs of power for virtually no money. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest allures to going with an LS. And I haven't seen anything Mopar wise. Like, I don't know of any like simple turbo kit that you could slap onto a 3rd gen Hemi and plug and play and make tons of power go out to the drag strip, and you're like, boom, you're in the 700-800 maybe higher horsepower level for no money. I think that's going to be the game changer when DIY Hemi comes up with that kit. I think we're going to be looking at 3rd gen Hemis as a serious competition to LS swaps.
And
I agree.
Funny you mentioned that, Johnny, is I've actually a couple months ago I started modeling some turbo manifolds.
Uh-oh.
So
there you have it, my friends. Another episode of Talking Mopars is in the books. For everything you need to know about this podcast or to listen and subscribe to the show, please visit talkingmopars.com. And don't forget that you can send me your Mopar stories, questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, and everything else on your Mopar-addicted mind to chris@talkingmopars.com, or leave me a voice message on my voicemail box at 209-28-MOPAR to hear yourself on the show. Finally, a very special thanks to my friends over at HemiPages.com, Chuck and Matt McMurray. Definitely check out their work. One last thing before we wrap it up here. There are a couple of ways that you can help support what I do here on Talking Mopars and the Mopar Hunter too. The first way is by jumping over to the website, TalkingMopars.com, and checking out the Talking Mopars merchandise shop. There you're going to find all the current Talking Mopars merchandise, so go give the merch shop a little look-see and possibly grab yourself or even someone you know something cool. The second way to help support the show and my work is by going to the Mopar Hunter Facebook page and becoming a supporter. For only $4.99 a month, which breaks down to like $1.25 a week or around 17 cents per day, you will get exclusive access to supporter-only content that is coming soon, such as bonus podcast episodes, bonus video content, bonus live streams, exclusive access to the supporters-only group, the Mopar Hunters Association, monthly giveaways, and posts of all my finds of Mopars for sale, Mopar collectibles, and Mopar parts that you will only see if you are a supporter. They are not posted publicly on the Mopar Hunter Facebook page, so consider becoming a supporter today and help me out. Being a supporter of mine is a big help in keeping this Mopar machine running and will help me to provide even better content moving forward. So thank you for your support and thank you for listening. That's it, my friends. Until we talk again, I am your host, Chris Albrecht, and that was Talking Mopars.
Thank you for listening to Talking Mopars, your direct connection to all things Mopar. Until next time, remember, no Mopar left behind.